Hey guys, tonight we find ourselves not in a bustling castle or a samurai's dojo, but nestled high on a misty hillside in medieval Japan. Imagine, the air is crisp, carrying the scent of pine and damp earth. The first faint light kisses the meticulously terraced rows of tea bushes stretching as far as you can see. You feel the cool dew soaking through the woven sandals on your feet as you prepare for a long day of tending to the precious leaves that fuel emperors and monks alike. Let's be honest, you probably wouldn't last a week doing this in real life. The sheer amount of back-breaking labor involved is intense. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, drop a comment letting me know where you're listening from and what time it is where you are. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first sliver of sun crests the distant mountains, painting the sky in hues of pale rose and gold. You are awake well before it, of course. Sleep is a luxury for those who don't rely on the land. You roll out of your futon, a thin mattress laid directly on the tatami mat floor of your small, one-room dwelling. The air is cold enough to see your breath, a gentle reminder that winter's grip loosens slowly here in the highlands. A quick, almost reverent bow towards the small Shinto shrine in the corner of your room is your first act. It's a simple thing, just a small wooden shelf holding a few offerings, a handful of rice, a sprig of pine, and a smooth, gray stone you found near the stream. You murmur a silent prayer for a bountiful harvest, for protection from the elements, and maybe, just maybe, for a little less back pain today. You're not getting any younger, after all. Then comes the water. A brisk walk to the nearby spring, the path worn smooth by countless journeys just like this one. The water is shockingly cold, even numbing, as you splash it on your face and neck. It's a rude awakening, but necessary. You need to be sharp. One clumsy move with the pruning shears, and you could damage a tea bush beyond repair. And damaged tea bushes? Well, that's less tea, and less tea means less income. Which is not great. Breakfast is simple. A small bowl of rice porridge, seasoned with a pinch of salt and a few pickled vegetables. Not exactly a gourmet meal, but it fills the stomach and provides the energy you need to face the day. You eat quickly, efficiently. There's no time for leisurely meals when the tea awaits. You pull on your mino, a raincoat made of straw, and your kasa, a conical hat also made of straw. The morning dew is heavy, and the air is still damp from the previous night's rain. You grab your tools, a small sickle, a pair of pruning shears, and a woven basket, and head out into the tea fields. The terraced rows stretch before you, a sea of vibrant green against the backdrop of the misty mountains. The air hums with the sound of insects, the chirping of birds, and the gentle rustling of the tea leaves in the breeze. It's peaceful, almost meditative. Almost. You know that peace will be shattered soon enough by the relentless demands of the work ahead. You begin your work with a careful inspection of the tea bushes. You're looking for new shoots, the tender young leaves that are prized for their delicate flavor. You run your fingers along the branches, feeling for the soft buds. It's a skill you've honed over years, passed down from your parents and grandparents. You can practically feel the life force of the plant thrumming beneath your fingertips. Today, you're primarily focused on pruning. It's a crucial task, shaping the bushes to encourage new growth and prevent them from becoming overgrown. You use your pruning shears with precision, carefully snipping away the older, tougher branches. It's a slow, methodical process, requiring patience and attention to detail. One wrong cut, and you could damage the plant, reducing its yield for the season. As you work, you notice the subtle differences between the various tea bushes. Some are taller, some are shorter. Some have darker leaves, some have lighter leaves. You know each bush intimately, its strengths and weaknesses, its quirks and peculiarities. You are its guardian, its protector. You pause for a moment, straightening your back and stretching your stiff muscles. The sun is higher now, burning away the morning mist. You can see the other farmers working in the fields around you, their figures silhouetted against the green landscape. There is a shared understanding, a silent camaraderie that binds you together. You are all part of something larger than yourselves, a community united by the land and the tea it provides. Did you know that tea cultivation in Japan was initially the domain of Buddhist monks? They used it to stay awake during long hours of meditation. It wasn't until much later that it became a more widespread practice. filtering down through the samurai class, and eventually becoming a staple for everyone. Speaking of monks, you vaguely remember hearing a story that some monks used to throw tea at each other during arguments. I mean, I guess that's one way to settle a dispute, a very caffeinated way. You continue pruning, filling your woven basket with the cut branches. The work is tiring, monotonous. Your back aches, your fingers are sore, and your mind begins to wander. You think about your family, your children. You hope they are doing well, that they are safe and healthy. You think about the upcoming harvest, the long hours of picking and processing the tea leaves. You wonder if you will make enough money to provide for your family. Historians still argue about the exact origins of tea cultivation techniques in Japan, specifically how much influence came directly from China versus independent innovation. Some scholars point to specific texts and tools as evidence of direct transmission, while others argue for a more nuanced process of adaptation and local development. It's a debate that continues to brew, much like a good cup of sencha. You pause again, wiping the sweat from your brow. The sun is beating down on you now, and the air is thick with humidity. You take a sip of water from your gourd, savoring the cool, refreshing liquid. It's a small pleasure, but one that you appreciate immensely. You glance over at the edge of your field. You think you see something slithering in the brush. No, it's just a snake. You're not sure what kind. You're not a snake expert. You know what is an expert? The kitsune, or fox spirit. Some believe that the kitsune protected the tea fields from pests and evil spirits. Some people even left offerings of aburage, fried tofu, at the edge of the fields to appease them. You don't do that. You can't afford to waste aburage on imaginary foxes. You remind yourself of the importance of your work. You are not just a tea farmer. You are a steward of the land, a guardian of tradition. You are providing a valuable service to society, producing a product that is enjoyed by people from all walks of life. And, of course, you need to eat. You continue pruning, your movements becoming more fluid, more automatic. You are lost in the rhythm of the work, your mind emptying of all thoughts and worries. You are simply present, connected to the land and the tea. All right, settle back in. You've just finished your pre-dawn ablutions and, well, contemplated the universe for a bit, as much as one can before the sun even thinks about peeking over the horizon. Now food. Simple breakfast, preparing for labor. A meager meal fuels you for the demanding work ahead. The chill of the morning still clings to the air as you shuffle towards the hearth. Hearth might be too grand a word for the little fire pit in the corner of your humble dwelling. It's more like a controlled dirt nap for some embers. You poke at it gently with a stick, coaxing a little life back into the flames. Smoke curls upwards, smelling faintly of the wood you scrounged yesterday, probably pine, maybe some cedar if you were lucky. Your stomach rumbles, a low grumble that echoes the quiet of the pre-dawn world. Breakfast isn't exactly a feast. Remember that rice you carefully measured out last night, the rice that represents a portion of your family's entire livelihood? Well, a small bowl of that, plain and unadorned, awaits you. Maybe, if you're really, really fortunate, there's a pickled plum and umeboshi tucked away. The sour, salty tang of it will be a welcome jolt to your sleepy senses. Think of it as medieval Red Bull. Or, well, maybe not. Red Bull would probably give a medieval peasant a heart attack. You eat in silence, squatting near the fire. The rice is warm, comforting. You chew slowly, deliberately, savoring each grain. It's not about pleasure, it's about fuel. Fuel for the long, arduous day ahead. You need to be able to pick those tea leaves. And remember, the quality of your crop dictates everything for your family. Modern life is so funny, isn't it? You can swing by a drive-thru and get a breakfast sandwich that probably contains more calories than you'll burn in an entire day of, well, whatever it is you do. Meanwhile, you're here, in your mind, carefully rationing rice like you're negotiating with your own digestive system. Okay, stomach, you get this much, and you have to make it last until, well, until we can grab a handful of roasted soybeans later. Once the rice is gone, you rinse the bowl with a bit of water from a nearby bucket. You don't want to waste a single grain. Every bit matters. Waste not, want not, as they say. And trust me, you do not want. Now, for the really exciting part, getting dressed. Okay, maybe not exciting. Practical. You pull on your work clothes, which are probably made of hemp or cotton, depending on what you can afford. They're likely patched and faded, bearing the marks of countless days spent toiling in the fields. Think of them as pre-distressed jeans, but without the hefty price tag. And, without the gene nest. You tie a cloth around your head to keep the sweat out of your eyes. This is important. Sweat in the eyes is not conducive to efficient tea picking. Plus, it stings. And you don't need more stinging in your life. You've got enough stinging from the sun, the insects, and the general existential dread of being a peasant farmer. You carefully inspect your hands. These are your tools, your livelihood. You can already feel the calluses forming, the rough texture of skin that has spent countless hours plucking delicate tea leaves. You might even have some cuts and scrapes from thorns or sharp branches. Battle scars, you could call them. Or just signs of hard work. Time to gather your tools. You grab your tea-picking basket, woven from bamboo. It's lightweight, but sturdy, designed to hold the precious leaves you'll be collecting. You make sure the lining of the basket is clean, so that no dirt or debris contaminates the harvest. Quality control starts early, and that's about it. No fancy equipment, no ergonomic tools. Just you, your basket, and the rising sun. Oh, and maybe a small knife or sickle, depending on the terrain and the type of tea you're harvesting. You'll use it to carefully snip the tender new shoots. It's important to be precise. You don't want to damage the plant. Remember, the tea plants are sacred, in a way. They are the source of your family's sustenance. Now, before you head out, you might take a moment to offer a silent prayer to the kami, the spirits of nature. You ask for a bountiful harvest, for protection from the elements, and for the strength to endure the day's labor. It's a small gesture, but it provides a sense of comfort and purpose. Kinda like when you check your phone first thing in the morning. Except, less addictive and probably more spiritually fulfilling. Speaking of spirituality, this is where things get a little, interesting. While most farmers probably just offered a quick prayer, there's some evidence to suggest that certain tea-growing communities incorporated more elaborate rituals into their daily routines. We're talking about potentially chanting, offerings of sake or rice cakes, maybe even dances performed to appease the tea spirits. It's all a bit hazy. Evidence is scarce, and most of it comes from later accounts, so it's hard to say for sure how widespread these practices were. Think of it like this. Imagine trying to reconstruct the morning routines of modern-day coffee farmers based solely on Instagram posts and the occasional blurry YouTube video. You'd get some idea, but you'd also be missing a lot of context. And you'd probably end up thinking that everyone's a latte art champion. And that brings us to the scholarly debate. Historians still argue about the extent to which religious beliefs influenced agricultural practices in medieval Japan. Some argue that Shinto and Buddhist beliefs were deeply intertwined with everyday life, shaping everything from planting schedules to harvesting techniques. Others maintain that practical considerations, like soil conditions and weather patterns, were the primary drivers of agricultural decision-making. The truth, as always, probably lies somewhere in between. It was a complex relationship. One thing is for sure, tea was becoming increasingly important, not just as a beverage, but as a symbol of status and culture. Remember how we talked about tea ceremonies gaining popularity among the elite in the previous section? Well, that demand trickled down, creating more opportunities and more pressure for tea farmers like yourself. The better your tea, the higher the price you could command, and the more secure your family's future would be. So, with your belly slightly less empty, your clothes slightly less clean, and your spirit slightly more fortified, you step out into the dawning light. The air is crisp and cool, carrying the scent of damp earth and, yes, even a hint of tea. The sun is just beginning to paint the sky with streaks of pink and orange. It's going to be a long day, but you're ready. Or, at least, as ready as a medieval tea farmer can be. You take a deep breath, steel your resolve, and head towards the tea fields. Your day's work awaits. And who knows, maybe today will be the day you stumble upon the perfect tea leaf, the one that will elevate your family to prosperity and renown. Or maybe you'll just get a really bad sunburn. Either way, it's going to be an adventure. A very, very boring adventure. Perfect for sleep. All right. Let's get you a little higher, shall we? Not that kind of higher, of course. We're talking elevation, people. Ascending the terraced slopes * the steep hills test your endurance as you reach the tea fields. You adjust the woven basket strapped to your back. It's empty now, thankfully, but the weight of it still seems to linger, a phantom ache reminding you of the day to come. Your breakfast, that sad little bowl of rice and pickled radish, feels like it vanished hours ago, even though it's barely been an hour since you choked it down. Maybe you should have snuck an extra radish. No, no, don't start thinking like that. Contentment, remember? The abbot's lessons. Easy for him to say, sitting on his plump cushion all day, dispensing wisdom, and probably sneaking extra radishes. The path, if you can even call it that, winds upwards, a narrow ribbon clinging to the hillside. It's more suggestion than actual construction, really. Just enough flattened earth and strategically placed rocks to keep you from tumbling down into the valley. You've seen it happen. Old man Kinji last spring. Well, let's just say he's fertilizing the rice paddies now. In a very literal sense. Don't dwell on that. Focus on the climb. Each step is a deliberate act, a careful placement of your worn sandals on the uneven ground. Your calves burn, a familiar ache that you've learned to ignore, like the persistent hum of cicadas on a summer afternoon. You breathe deeply, trying to find a rhythm, a connection between your body and the earth. Inhale, exhale. Imagine you're a mountain goat. A very, very tired mountain goat. The air is thick with the scent of damp earth and pine needles. The forest presses close on either side of the path, a tapestry of green woven with the calls of unseen birds. You hear the faint rush of a stream somewhere below, a constant reminder of the water that nourishes the tea plants, the water that you'll be sweating out in gallons today. You pause for a moment, leaning against a gnarled pine tree, pretending to admire the view. Actually, the view is pretty spectacular. The valley stretches out below you, a patchwork of rice paddies and fields, dotted with the thatched roofs of farmhouses. In the distance, you can see the faint shimmer of the sea, a reminder of the world beyond these mountains, a world you'll probably never see. It's tempting to just sit here, to let the cool shade lull you into a peaceful slumber. But you know you can't. The tea leaves wait, demanding to be plucked. And the landlord? Well, let's just say he's not known for his patience or his generosity. He's probably still sleeping, the lazy bum. Resigned, you push yourself away from the tree and continue your ascent. The path steepens, becoming even more treacherous. You have to use your hands now, scrambling over rocks and pulling yourself up by tree roots. You can feel the sweat trickling down your back, soaking your thin cotton shirt. You wonder if you remembered to pack enough water. Probably not. You never do. You always underestimate how thirsty you'll get. It's a character flaw, really. The tea terraces begin to appear, carved into the hillside like giant steps. They're a testament to generations of labor, a physical manifestation of the enduring relationship between the people and the land. Each terrace is carefully constructed to maximize sunlight and drainage, a delicate balance of engineering and artistry. You finally reach the first terrace, and the sight of the tea bushes fills you with a sense of, well, not exactly joy, but maybe grim satisfaction. They're there at least. Row upon row of vibrant green, their leaves glistening with morning dew. They look almost mocking, like they're saying, "Oh, you finally made it? Now get to work." You take a moment to survey your domain. The tea field stretches out before you, a verdant ocean lapping against the slopes of the mountain. It's a beautiful sight in its own way, a testament to the power of nature and the resilience of the human spirit. Or maybe you're just delirious from the climb. Now, a little historical context as you catch your breath. Tea cultivation in Japan really took off during the Kamakura period, which was roughly from the late 12th to the 14th century. It was during this time that Zen Buddhism became super influential, and tea went hand in hand with Zen practices. Monks used tea to stay awake during long meditation sessions, and tea ceremonies became an important part of Zen monastic life. It wasn't just some casual afternoon cuppa. It was serious business. And speaking of serious business, here's a little fringe history for you. There's this persistent legend that a Buddhist monk named Aisai, who is credited with popularizing tea in Japan, actually brought the tea seeds back from China hidden inside his, wait for it, belly button. I know. It sounds ridiculous. But hey, stranger things have happened. Imagine the customs official. Anything to declare, sir? Aisai. Just a slight, abdominal distension. Nothing to worry about. Now, for a scholarly debate. Historians still argue about the exact social impact of tea cultivation on medieval Japanese society. Some argue that it led to increased social stratification, with wealthy landowners controlling the most productive tea fields and exploiting the labor of peasant farmers like you. Others argue that it fostered a sense of community and cooperation, as farmers worked together to cultivate and harvest the tea. The truth, as always, is probably somewhere in between. It's probably a little bit of exploitation and a little bit of community. Just like everything else in life, you notice a small shrine tucked away at the edge of the tea field. It's dedicated to the local kami, the spirits of the land. You pause for a moment and offer a silent prayer, asking for a good harvest and for protection from accidents. You're not particularly religious, but it doesn't hurt to be polite. Besides, you wouldn't want to offend the kami. They might send a typhoon or something. Or worse, a plague of locusts. As you reach the top of the slope, you notice something shimmering in the distance. It's the early morning sunlight reflecting off the dew on the tea leaves. It's a beautiful sight, and it fills you with a sense of anticipation, dread, probably a little of both. Today is going to be a long day. You can already feel it in your bones. But at least the view is nice. And maybe, just maybe, you'll get an extra radish tonight. One can only hope. You take one last deep breath, steel yourself for the work ahead, and step into the tea field. The day begins, and it's time to get to work. No more lollygagging. No more daydreaming. It's just you, the tea bushes, and the endless, relentless sun. Okay, settle in. Find that comfy spot. We're back in those misty, mountainous tea fields of medieval Japan. Remember that incline from earlier? Yeah, it's still there. Sorry, but hey, at least the view's getting better, right? Careful plucking, tender leaf selection *, you reach the section of your family's tea terraces that you've been assigned for the morning. The air is thick with the scent of damp earth and, of course, that fresh, grassy fragrance of young tea leaves. It's surprisingly invigorating. Even after that climb, you kneel, your worn knees protesting slightly, and take a deep breath. Time to get to work. Before you even think about plucking a single leaf, you survey the bushes. You're not just grabbing at random here. This isn't some Shutters supermarket tea bag situation. This is quality. This is, well, it's your livelihood, so you're darn well going to do it right. Your fingers, calloused and stained a light green from years of handling tea, gently part the leaves. You're looking for the youngest, most tender shoots, the 2 leaves and a bud, as your father always says. These are the ones packed with the most flavor, the least bitterness. They're also the most delicate, so you have to be careful. No yanking. We're not barbarians here. The first leaf you select is a perfect specimen. A vibrant, almost luminous green, still slightly damp with morning dew. It practically glows in your hand. You pinch it delicately between your thumb and forefinger, and with a practiced twist, pluck it cleanly from the stem. It's a tiny thing, barely bigger than your fingernail. You place it carefully in the small woven basket hanging at your hip, and then you repeat, and repeat, and repeat. It's a slow, methodical process. Each leaf is individually assessed, selected, and plucked with the same care and attention. You're not just picking leaves, you're curating a collection of the finest specimens. It's meditative in a way. The repetitive motion, the quiet focus, the gentle rustling of the leaves, it's almost enough to make you forget about the aching in your back. Almost. You notice a small ladybug crawling on one of the leaves. You gently nudge it onto a nearby branch. Can't be having that in your tea, now can we? Imagine the look on the face of that visiting dignitary if he found a little 6-legged friend floating in his cup. That would be awkward. As you continue to pluck, you start to notice subtle variations in the leaves. Some are a slightly darker green, others a bit more rounded. Some have a faint, almost imperceptible fuzz on their surface. You learn to recognize these differences to understand what they might indicate about the tea's flavor and quality. It's like being a wine connoisseur, but with leaves. A leaf connoisseur, if you will. Okay, I'll stop. You might come across the occasional damaged leaf, nibbled on by insects or bruised by the wind. Those go into a separate basket. They're not suitable for the highest quality tea, but they can still be used for everyday brewing, or perhaps sold to a less discerning merchant. Waste not, want not, as they say, especially when the shogunate's tax collectors take such a hefty cut. Now, speaking of high-quality tea, did you know that in medieval Japan, tea wasn't just a beverage? It was a status symbol. The best tea was reserved for the elite, the samurai, the nobles, the monks. Commoners like you and me, well, you in this scenario, might only get to taste the good stuff on special occasions, like festivals or religious ceremonies. The rest of the time, it was the lower-grade stuff for us. The joys of feudalism. Interestingly, there's a bit of a scholarly debate about exactly how widespread tea cultivation was among peasant farmers during this period. Some historians argue that most farmers were primarily focused on growing rice and other staple crops, and that tea cultivation was largely confined to specialized plantations owned by wealthy landowners or temples. Others argue that tea cultivation was more widespread than previously thought, and that many peasant families grew tea on a small scale, both for their own consumption and to supplement their income. It's a bit of a chicken or the egg situation. Did the demand for tea drive the cultivation, or did the cultivation create the demand? The debate continues, and probably will for quite some time. Back to the leaves. You're careful to pluck only the top few leaves from each shoot. This encourages the plant to produce more new growth, ensuring a continuous supply of tea throughout the growing season. It's like giving the tea bush a little haircut. A very, very precise and deliberate haircut. You also need to be mindful of the weather. If it starts to rain, you'll have to stop picking. Wet leaves are more susceptible to damage and bruising, and they also don't dry properly. Plus, let's be honest, picking tea in the rain is just plain miserable. Remember that leaky roof from last night? Yeah, no thank you to a repeat. You pause for a moment, wiping the sweat from your brow with the back of your hand. The sun is starting to climb higher in the sky, and the air is getting warmer. The basket at your hip is slowly filling with the precious green leaves. You estimate you've been at it for a couple of hours already, and you're probably only about a quarter of the way through your assigned section. Sigh, but you press on. You remember what your father told you. The quality of the tea depends on the care you take in picking it. A single bad leaf can ruin the whole batch. So, you continue to meticulously select each leaf, one by one, with the same diligence and attention you started with. And you know what? It's not entirely unpleasant. There's a certain satisfaction in knowing that you're contributing to something important, something that will bring pleasure to others. And who knows? Maybe some of these leaves will end up in the cup of a powerful samurai, or even the shogun himself. Okay, probably not, but it's nice to dream, right? Now here's a slightly unconventional fact for you. Some believe that the practice of drinking tea in Japan was originally associated with, wait for it, spiritual enlightenment. Yep, monks used to drink tea to stay awake during long meditation sessions. They believed that it helped them to focus their minds and achieve a higher state of consciousness. So, technically, you're not just picking tea, you're contributing to the potential enlightenment of some future tea drinker. Just try not to think about that too much, okay? It might put too much pressure on you. You shift your weight, trying to find a more comfortable position. Your knees are starting to ache again, and your back is definitely not happy. You glance at the sun, gauging how much longer you have to go. A few more hours, at least. You let out a quiet sigh. Back to work. 2 leaves and a bud. 2 leaves and a bud. 2 leaves and a bud. The mantra echoes in your mind as you continue your careful plucking, 1 leaf at a time. The gentle breeze rustles through the tea bushes, carrying with it the scent of earth and leaves. The sun warms your skin, and the birds sing in the trees. It's a simple life, a hard life, but it's your life. And in this moment, surrounded by the verdant beauty of the tea fields, you find a small measure of peace. The basket fills, a measure of progress. The weight of your harvest grows with each passing hour. And so, the rhythm settles in. Snip, snip. Delicate leaves nestled gently into the basket. Snip, snip. Another perfect pair. You're becoming a leafy ninja, a tea-plucking prodigy. Okay, maybe not prodigy. More like adequately competent. But still, you're contributing to the great tea economy of wherever you are. Shizuoka? Uji. Honestly, at this point, they all blur together in a haze of green. Remember that meticulously crafted schedule from earlier, the one you mentally outlined while choking down your rice gruel? Yeah, well, that's gone. The tea bushes dictate the pace now. You move along the row, your fingers dancing over the tender shoots. You're looking for the ikabanka, the first flush of spring tea, the most prized and delicate. It's like the VIP section of the tea bush. Only the best get in. The weight in your basket begins to tell. It's not unbearable, not yet, but it's a constant reminder of your progress. Each ounce represents effort, discipline, and the faint, lingering scent of suncha clinging to your fingertips. You shift the weight from one shoulder to the other. You're starting to feel it now. Your back is starting to ache a little bit. Your knees are definitely talking. You pause for a moment, straightening up. The sun is higher now, beating down on your back. You wipe the sweat from your brow with the back of your hand, careful not to smudge the grime further. The view is still breathtaking, even after hours of staring at it. The terraced hills roll out before you like a verdant ocean. In the distance, you can see other farmers, tiny figures moving amongst the tea bushes, each locked in their own private battle against the clock and the elements. You wonder if they're having the same existential crisis about the futility of manual labor. Probably. Misery loves company, after all. You take a deep breath, the air thick with the sweet, grassy aroma of tea. It's actually quite pleasant, in a purely masochistic kind of way. You can almost taste the tea already, the vibrant green liquor swirling in your mouth, the slight bitterness balanced by a subtle sweetness. Almost makes it worth it. Almost. You notice a small insect crawling on one of the tea leaves. It's a tiny green beetle, almost perfectly camouflaged. You gently brush it off, sending it tumbling into the undergrowth. You wouldn't want it to end up in someone's tea. That would be unprofessional. Plus, you're pretty sure beetles don't add any beneficial antioxidants. This reminds you of the stories you heard as a child, about how some farmers used to encourage spiders in their tea fields. Seriously. Not because they were arachnid enthusiasts, but because the spiders helped control other pests that could damage the tea plants. It was like having tiny, 8-legged bodyguards for your precious leaves. And you thought your job was weird. Now, back to work. You continue along the row, your fingers moving with practiced ease. Snip, snip. The basket fills steadily, a silent testament to your efforts. You're starting to get into a rhythm, a meditative state where the only thing that matters is the next leaf, the next snip, the next step. It's almost calming. Almost. You think about the tea ceremony, the elaborate ritual that transforms these humble leaves into a symbol of peace, harmony, and respect. You've never actually participated in a tea ceremony, but you've seen them from afar. All that bowing and whisking and sipping seems a bit much, doesn't it? You'd rather just chug it down and get back to work. But hey, to each their own. Speaking of tea ceremonies, did you know that the famous tea master Sun no Rikyu, who basically invented the whole thing, was eventually ordered to commit ritual suicide by the shogun Toyotomi Hideyoshi? Yeah, talk about a bad day at the office. Historians still argue about the exact reasons for his downfall. Was it political intrigue? A clash of personalities? Or did Hideyoshi just get tired of all the bowing? We may never know. One thing is for sure, don't piss off the shogun. Solid life advice, really. Anyway, back to the tea. You're starting to feel a twinge in your lower back. Time for another quick stretch. You stand up straight, arching your back and rotating your shoulders. You hear a satisfying pop and feel a little bit of the tension release. Ah, that's better. For now, you glance at the sun. It's getting closer to midday. You're probably halfway through your harvest for the day. Not bad. You might even get a few extra minutes of sleep tonight. Or, more likely, you'll just be too sore to sleep. You remember reading somewhere that tea cultivation in Japan was heavily influenced by Zen Buddhism. Monks brought tea seeds back from China and cultivated them in their monasteries. They used tea as a way to stay awake during long hours of meditation. So, basically, you're just following in the footsteps of enlightened beings. Except instead of seeking enlightenment, you're just trying to make a living. But hey, close enough, right? The basket is getting heavier now, noticeably heavier. You can feel the strain in your arms and shoulders. You're starting to sweat more profusely. The sun is relentless. You wouldn't mind a nice, refreshing glass of iced tea. Wait, did they even have ice in medieval Japan? Probably not. More like lukewarm well water. Still, sounds pretty good right now. You notice a small, perfectly formed tea leaf glistening in the sunlight. It's almost too perfect to pick. It's like the supermodel of tea leaves. You almost feel bad plucking it. Almost. Snip. Into the basket it goes. Even supermodels have to contribute to society somehow. You think about the future of tea farming. Will there still be farmers like you, meticulously plucking leaves by hand, hundreds of years from now? Or will it all be done by robots? Probably robots. But hey, at least you'll have a good story to tell your robot overlords. Back in my day, we plucked tea leaves uphill, both ways, in the snow. They'll probably just vaporize you for being inefficient. You continue to work, the rhythm of the harvest driving you forward. The basket fills, a tangible measure of your progress. It's a small victory, a momentary triumph over the relentless demands of nature. You're one step closer to the end of the day, one step closer to, well, more work. But for now, you can savor the satisfaction of a job well done. Or, at least, a job adequately done. There's a funny story that goes around the village about old man Kenji. He was so dedicated to his tea plants that he would talk to them every day, giving them pep talks and encouragement. Some say that's why he always had the best yield. Others say it's because he secretly fertilized them with sake. I don't know which is true, but it's a funny story, right? You are starting to feel the weight of the basket and the heat of the sun. The end of the day is still hours away, but you can taste the satisfaction of a good job. You are a tea farmer, and this is your life. The sun, bless its heart, has finally decided to take it easy on you. After hours of bending, stretching, and coaxing those precious little tea leaves from their branches, your back is staging a full-blown rebellion. It's time for a much-needed midday respite. You find a spot beneath the shade of a particularly ancient cedar tree. Its gnarled roots snake across the earth like slumbering dragons, and its canopy offers a welcome reprieve from the relentless sun. You carefully lower yourself to the ground, wincing slightly as your joints protest. The glamorous life of a medieval tea farmer. It's basically like being a ninja, but instead of throwing stars, you're throwing tea leaves? Okay, maybe the comparison falls apart a little, but both involve intense physical exertion and the potential for crippling back pain. You lean against the rough bark of the cedar, closing your eyes for a moment. The sounds of the tea farm, which had faded into the background during your work, now come into sharp focus. The gentle rustling of leaves in the breeze, the distant chirping of cicadas, the faint gurgling of the stream that runs along the edge of the tea terraces. It's a symphony of nature, composed specifically for the weary tea farmer. You take a deep breath, savoring the earthy scent of the soil and the subtle fragrance of tea leaves that clings to your clothing. From your vantage point, you can see the other farmers scattered across the terrace slopes, each a tiny figure diligently plucking away at the tea bushes. They look like ants, scurrying across a giant green cake. You wonder if they're feeling as beat up as you are. Probably. Misery loves company, as they say. You reach into your small woven bag and pull out your lunch. It's simple fare, a handful of rice balls seasoned with a bit of pickled plum and a small piece of dried fish. Not exactly a Michelin star meal, but it's enough to replenish your energy. As you eat, you reflect on the importance of tea in your life and in the lives of everyone around you. It's more than just a beverage. It's a ritual, a symbol of hospitality, a source of comfort and connection. And, let's be honest, it's also how you pay the bills. Did you know that tea cultivation in Japan was largely popularized by Buddhist monks? They brought tea seeds back from China and cultivated them in temple gardens, using tea as a stimulant to stay awake during long hours of meditation. Talk about a caffeine fix. It's like the original energy drink, minus the artificial colors and questionable chemicals. You can almost picture a monk, centuries ago, desperately clutching a teacup, muttering, "Just one more sutra." As you finish your lunch, you notice a small wildflower growing at the base of the cedar tree. It's a delicate thing, with petals of the palest lavender. You've seen these flowers before, but you've never really taken the time to appreciate their beauty. You lean closer, admiring the intricate patterns of its veins and the subtle shading of its petals. It's a tiny miracle of nature, blooming in the midst of all the hard work and toil. This reminds you of something your grandmother used to say. Even in the busiest of days, always make time to notice the small wonders around you. She was a wise woman, your grandmother. She also made a mean cup of tea. Her secret ingredient? A pinch of, well, you can't reveal that. Family secrets and all that. But let's just say it involves a certain type of mushroom and a whole lot of hope. Just kidding, mostly. Now, here's a quirky little tidbit for you. Some people in medieval Japan believed that tea leaves could be used to predict the future. They would read the patterns formed by the leaves at the bottom of the cup, just like you might read tea leaves today. Imagine going to a fortune teller, and instead of crystal balls, they just hand you a lukewarm cup of sencha. I see. Yes, you will definitely need more sugar in your next cup. And perhaps a biscuit. As you sit there, enjoying the quiet beauty of your surroundings, you can't help but feel a sense of gratitude. You're grateful for the work that you do, even though it's hard. You're grateful for the tea that sustains you and your community. And you're grateful for the small moments of peace and reflection that break up the monotony of the day. Of course, life as a medieval tea farmer isn't all sunshine and wildflowers. There are also the droughts, the pests, the unpredictable weather, and the ever-present threat of, well, let's not dwell on the unpleasant things. Let's just say that feudal lords weren't always known for their generosity when it came to, shall we say, fair compensation for your backbreaking labor. It's a bit like working for a modern-day corporation, only with more swords and less HR. This brings us to a scholarly debate that still rages among historians. To what extent did the peasant class in medieval Japan actually benefit from the burgeoning tea industry? Some argue that tea cultivation provided economic opportunities and improved living standards, while others contend that it simply reinforced existing social hierarchies and exploited the labor of the peasantry. It's a complex issue with no easy answers. Kind of like trying to decide whether to have another cup of tea or just take a nap. Both sound pretty good right now, actually. You stretch your arms above your head, feeling the tension ease from your muscles. The midday sun is still warm, but the air is noticeably cooler now. You know that you can't rest for too long. There are still many more tea leaves to be plucked, and the day is far from over. But for now, you allow yourself to savor this moment of peace and tranquility. It's a small reward for a hard day's work. Before you get back to it, you decide to take a moment to appreciate the tea plants themselves. You gently touch the leaves, feeling their delicate texture. You notice the subtle variations in color, from the bright green of the new growth to the darker green of the mature leaves. Each plant is unique, a testament to the power and resilience of nature. It's almost spiritual. Or maybe you're just really tired. You stand up, brushing the dirt from your clothes. Your back still aches, but you feel refreshed and ready to tackle the rest of the day. You take one last look at the wildflower, offering it a silent thank you for its beauty. And then, you turn and head back to the tea fields, ready to resume your work. The basket awaits. All right, settle in, sleepyheads. Let's head on down the hill, shall we? Returning downhill, burdened but content asterisk, you begin your descent. You know, it's funny, going uphill always feels longer, even if it isn't. Maybe it's just the constant battle against gravity messing with your perception of time. Or, you know, maybe it's just because going uphill sucks. The sun, now past its zenith, casts longer shadows across the terraced fields. The air is a little cooler, a welcome change from the midday heat. You can feel the sweat drying on your brow, leaving a slightly salty residue. Delicious. With each step, the basket on your back shifts, the weight a constant reminder of the day's labor. You try to adjust it, easing the pressure on your shoulders. It's a delicate balance. Too far forward, and you'll topple headfirst down the slope, sending your precious tea leaves scattering. Too far back, and you'll probably still fall. Just backwards this time. Maybe invest in a better carrying system tomorrow? Or, invent the backpack. You could be rich. Well, relatively rich, for a medieval Japanese tea farmer. Which, let's be honest, isn't saying much. The path downwards is treacherous, even more so now with the added weight. Loose stones and patches of damp earth threaten to send you sprawling. You plant your feet carefully, using your staff for balance. Each step is deliberate, a small victory against the forces of gravity and clumsiness. You notice the leaves underfoot, a mix of vibrant greens and decaying browns. The air smells earthy and damp, with a faint hint of tea. It's a comforting smell, a smell of home, of hard work, mostly tea. You crush a fallen leaf between your fingers, releasing its aroma. It's a slightly different scent than the fresh leaves in your basket, a little more mature, a little more experienced. Like a fine wine. Or, like slightly older tea. As you descend, you pass other farmers making their way up the hill. They offer you nods of acknowledgement, small gestures of camaraderie. You return their greetings, a silent understanding passing between you. You're all in this together, bound by the rhythm of the seasons and the demands of the tea plants. It's a hard life, no doubt, but there's a certain satisfaction in it. A sense of purpose. Plus, the tea is pretty good. You can hear the sounds of the village below growing louder as you approach. The barking of dogs, the laughter of children, the rhythmic clang of a blacksmith's hammer. It's a welcome change from the quiet solitude of the tea fields. You imagine a nice, hot bath when you get home. Maybe even a little sake. You deserve it. Speaking of the village, did you know that during the Muromachi period, roughly the 14th to 16th centuries, tea houses started becoming important social and cultural hubs? They weren't just places to drink tea. They were places for the elite, samurai, merchants, and artists to gather, discuss politics, appreciate art, and generally show off how cultured they were. Think of it as the medieval Japanese equivalent of a Starbucks, but with more swords and less pumpkin spice. You round a bend in the path and the village comes into view, nestled in the valley below. Smoke rises from the chimneys of the houses, a sign of evening meals being prepared. The sight fills you with a sense of warmth and anticipation. Almost there, almost home. You focus on your footing, carefully navigating the final stretch of the descent. The weight of the basket seems to increase with each step, your muscles aching from the day's exertion. You wonder if you pulled something. Maybe you should ask Old Man Kenji for some of his special herbal remedy. Although, last time you tried that, you ended up hallucinating talking squirrels for 3 days. So maybe not. As you reach the bottom of the hill, you feel a surge of relief. You made it. You didn't fall, you didn't spill your tea, and you only slightly tweaked your back. All in all, a successful day. You pause for a moment, catching your breath and surveying your surroundings. The sun is beginning to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. The air is still and quiet, save for the gentle chirping of crickets. It's a beautiful sight, a moment of peace and tranquility. You allow yourself to savor it, knowing that tomorrow will bring another day of hard work. Here's a fun factoid for you. There's this whole thing about tea ceremonies, right? You know, the super formal, ritualistic way of preparing and serving tea. Well, some fringe historians, and I use the term historians very loosely here, believe that these ceremonies weren't just about appreciating the tea. They think they were secret codes, ways for samurai to communicate with each other in disguise, planning rebellions, and, I don't know, ordering takeout without their wives knowing. The evidence is, shall we say, circumstantial. Mostly just a lot of dramatic interpretations of floral arrangements and the specific angle at which the tea bowl is held. But hey, it's a fun theory. And who knows? Maybe you're accidentally thwarting a secret samurai rebellion every time you spill tea on yourself. You continue walking towards the village. The basket of tea leaves a heavy but welcome burden. You think about what you'll do with your earnings. Maybe buy a new pair of sandals. Or perhaps a small treat for your children. Or, maybe just hide it under your mattress and pretend it doesn't exist. You'll decide later. As you walk, you can't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. You've worked hard, you've harvested a good amount of tea, and you've contributed to the well-being of your family and your village. It's a simple life, but it's a good life. And on that note, let's talk about something that historians actually argue about: the role of women in tea production. While men often get the credit for the more public aspects of the tea trade, women played a crucial role in the cultivation, processing, and even the sale of tea. They were often the ones doing the meticulous work of plucking the leaves, sorting them, and preparing them for market. Some historians argue that the economic independence afforded to women through tea production gave them a greater degree of social and political influence than they might otherwise have had. Others argue that their contributions were often overlooked and undervalued, and that they were still subject to the same patriarchal constraints as women in other sectors of society. The debate continues, and it's probably more interesting than arguing about samurai tea ceremony conspiracies. Probably. You reach the edge of the village and the first houses come into view. You see children playing in the street, their laughter echoing through the air. You smile, feeling a sense of warmth and belonging. You're home. You take a deep breath, preparing yourself for the final leg of your journey. The basket still feels heavy, your muscles still ache, but your heart is light. You've earned your rest. You walk on, your footsteps carrying you towards the promise of a warm meal, a comfortable bed, and the sweet, soothing taste of, you guessed it, tea. Sleep well. Alright, friend, let's get these tea leaves ready for their big transformation. Remember all that hard work you put in, scaling those hills like a caffeinated mountain goat? It's time to turn those delicate leaves into something truly special. Processing begins. The first stage of transformation *, you begin the withering process. carefully laying out the leaves. You arrive at the processing area, a simple, open-air structure designed to protect the leaves from direct sunlight and heavy rain. It's basically a glorified porch. You can smell the earth, the faint aroma of drying straw, and is that a hint of yesterday's miso soup? Probably. Life wasn't exactly sterile back then. You gently lower your basket to the ground, feeling the satisfying thump of a day's labor. The other farmers are already here, some ahead of you in the process, others just arriving, their faces etched with the same mix of fatigue and quiet satisfaction you feel. There's a communal atmosphere, a shared understanding of the work that binds you together. It's like a really, really quiet office, except instead of spreadsheets, you have piles of green leaves. Your first task is to prepare the withering trays. These are large, shallow bamboo trays, meticulously woven and cleaned. You run your hand over the smooth surface, ensuring there are no splinters or imperfections that could damage the delicate leaves. You wouldn't want to give those leaves a paper cut, would you? That would just be rude. Now comes the delicate part. You begin to carefully spread the tea leaves across the trays, one handful at a time. This isn't just dumping them out willy-nilly. This requires precision. You aim for a thin, even layer, ensuring that each leaf has enough space to breathe. Think of it like giving each leaf its own little personal spa day. You don't want them crammed together, sweating, and complaining. Imagine the leaf equivalent of a crowded subway car. Nobody wants that. As you spread the leaves, you notice the subtle variations in color and texture. Some are a vibrant, almost electric green, while others are a softer, more muted shade. Some are perfectly whole, while others have tiny imperfections, a testament to their journey from bud to basket. Each leaf is unique, a tiny individual with its own story to tell. Or, maybe they're just leaves. But it sounds nice, doesn't it? The air is filled with the fresh, grassy scent of the tea leaves, a clean and invigorating aroma that washes over you. You inhale deeply, savoring the moment. It's a welcome change from the, let's just say, earthy smells of the farmyard. The piggies and the fertilizer, all that good stuff. You work slowly and methodically, your hands moving with practiced ease. This is a task that demands patience and attention to detail. Rushing would only damage the leaves, bruising them and compromising their flavor. It's like trying to rush a cat. It just doesn't work. You gotta be gentle, deliberate, and maybe offer a little treat. In this case, the treat is proper withering. As you work, you can't help but reflect on the history of tea in Japan. Did you know that tea cultivation was originally introduced to Japan by Buddhist monks who brought seeds back from China? Imagine being the monk who smuggled those seeds back. Talk about a high-stakes game of hide-and-seek. You're basically responsible for an entire nation's caffeine addiction. You remember hearing stories of Issai, a prominent monk who is often credited with popularizing tea in Japan during the Kamakura period. He even wrote a book about the health benefits of tea, which, let's be honest, sounds like the ancient equivalent of a Gwyneth Paltrow wellness blog. Drink tea, live forever, and maybe try steaming your, never mind. Now, here's a quirky little tidbit for you. Some believe that certain tea varieties have spiritual properties and can enhance meditation practices. I guess if you're really, really into tea, you might start seeing things. Maybe the tea leaves start whispering secrets to you. Or maybe you just need to lay off the caffeine. You finish spreading the leaves on the first tray and move on to the next. The repetitive motion is almost meditative, allowing your mind to wander. You think about your family, your neighbors, the upcoming harvest festival. You even ponder the existential question of whether a tea leaf falling in the forest makes a sound if no one is around to hear it. Deep, I know. As the afternoon sun begins to mellow, casting long shadows across the processing area, you continue your work. The leaves are slowly beginning to lose their moisture, becoming slightly softer and more pliable. This is exactly what you want. You're coaxing the water out of them, like a gentle masseuse working out the tension in their tiny, leafy muscles. You rotate the trays periodically, ensuring that the leaves wither evenly. This is crucial for developing the desired flavor and aroma. You don't want some leaves to be all withered and sad while others are still perky and full of life. It's all about balance, baby. You notice old man Tanaka is having a terrible time. He sneezed 4 times and dropped leaves all over the floor. You try not to laugh, but he looks like a confused green Santa Claus. He catches your eye and gives you a weary smile. He's been doing this for longer than you've been alive, and you respect his resilience. Historians still debate the exact methods used for withering tea leaves in medieval Japan. Some believe that leaves were simply left to air dry, while others suggest that more sophisticated techniques, such as controlled humidity and temperature, were employed. It's like a historical CSI, trying to piece together the clues from centuries ago. Did they use a fancy medieval dehumidifier, or did they just rely on good old-fashioned sunshine? The world may never know. As the day draws to a close, you survey your work. The trays are filled with a sea of green, slowly transforming from fresh leaves to withered perfection. You feel a sense of accomplishment, knowing that you have played a vital role in this transformation. You're not just a tea farmer. You're a tea artist, a tea whisperer, a tea. Okay, I'll stop. The air is cooler now, and the sounds of the farmyard are fading as everyone heads home for the evening. You carefully stack the withering trays, preparing them for the night. Tomorrow, you will continue the process, coaxing even more moisture from the leaves and bringing them one step closer to becoming the perfect cup of tea. You stretch your back, feeling the familiar aches and pains of a long day's work. But you also feel a sense of peace, a connection to the land and the traditions that have sustained your family for generations. You are a part of something bigger than yourself, a link in the chain that connects the past to the present. And all because of some little green leaves. It's kind of amazing when you think about it. You give the leaves one last look, whispering a silent good night to them. They're probably not listening, but it makes you feel good. You imagine them dreaming of hot water and happy tea drinkers. Or maybe they're just dreaming of being left alone. Who knows what goes on in the minds of tea leaves? All right, time to head home. You've earned your rest. Tomorrow, we'll get to the next stage of this fascinating process. Sleep tight, and don't let the tea bugs bite. All right, settle in, find that comfy spot. Almost there. Gentle steaming, preserving the essence asterisk. The sun, remember that fiery ball we watched rise hours ago? Yeah, well, it's starting to think about dipping below the horizon again. Time flies when you're steaming leaves. Okay, maybe not flies, but certainly ambles. It ambles along. You gather the withered leaves. They're softer now, pliable, not quite as aggressively green as they were this morning. They feel a little like that forgotten lettuce in the back of your crisper drawer, but, in a good way. A deliberate, artisanal, not destined for the compost bin kind of way. You pile them carefully into large bamboo baskets, ready for their next transformation. Now, the steaming process. This is where things get steamy. I know, I'm hilarious. You've got your steaming apparatus ready, a large wooden contraption, basically a giant, fancy colander sitting over a cauldron of boiling water. Ingenious, really, and surprisingly effective. You carefully load the withered leaves into the steamer, making sure not to pack them too tightly. You want the steam to penetrate every single leaf, enveloping them in its, steamy embrace. As the steam rises, it carries with it the scent of the forest, the earth, the very essence of the tea plant. It's a smell that's both invigorating and calming, like a spa day, but for tea leaves. You watch intently, your face warmed by the rising vapor. You need to get this just right. Too little steam, and the leaves won't be properly de-enzymed? Is that a word? Let's go with it. Too much steam, and you'll end up with a soggy, sad pile of, oversteamed tea leaves. Nobody wants that. The goal here is to halt oxidation. See, those enzymes that were so busy turning the leaves brown during withering? Yeah, we need to tell them to take a break. A permanent break. Steaming does the trick. It heats the leaves just enough to deactivate those enzymes, locking in the green color and preserving the delicate flavor. It's like hitting the pause button on nature. You can almost hear the leaves sighing contentedly as the steam works its magic. It's a gentle, almost imperceptible sound, like the rustling of silk in a quiet room. Or maybe that's just the blood rushing to my head from all this imaginary tea farming. The steaming process takes only a few minutes, but those minutes are crucial. You need to be vigilant, monitoring the leaves closely. They should turn a vibrant, almost luminous green. They should feel slightly softened, but not mushy. It's a delicate balance, a dance between heat and time. Once you're satisfied, you quickly remove the leaves from the steamer and spread them out on a clean bamboo mat. They're hot to the touch, radiating a gentle warmth. You fan them gently to cool them down slightly, preventing them from self-combusting? Probably not. But better safe than sorry. The air is thick with the aroma of steamed tea leaves. It's a smell that lingers in your clothes, in your hair, in your very being. You'll probably smell like a walking tea plantation for the next few days. On the plus side, you'll probably be very popular with moths. No, wait, that's cedar. Never mind. Now, while you're carefully tending to your precious leaves, let's delve into a little bit of tea trivia, shall we? Did you know that green tea, the kind you're meticulously crafting right now, was the first type of tea consumed in Japan? Yep. Before black tea, before oolong tea, there was green tea. It was introduced by Buddhist monks who brought it back from China, initially as a medicinal drink. So, basically, you're not just a tea farmer, you're a pharmacist. Sort of. And speaking of monks, here's a slightly more out there fact for you. Some believe that the specific methods of steaming and processing tea leaves in Japan were influenced by esoteric Buddhist practices. The idea is that the tea-making process is a form of meditation, a way to connect with the natural world and achieve a state of tea-induced enlightenment. Okay, I made that last part up. But the connection to Buddhist practices is definitely a thing. Maybe all that steaming is actually a ritualistic cleansing of the leaves, purifying them before they become a sacred beverage. You know, like a tea leaf baptism. Now, here's where things get a little debatable. Historians still argue about the precise origins of Japanese tea cultivation. Some believe that tea seeds were first brought to Japan by the priest Issei in the late 12th century. He even wrote a book about tea, Kissei Yajoki, which is basically the medieval Japanese equivalent of a tea blog. Others argue that tea cultivation may have started even earlier, perhaps as early as the 9th century. The evidence is, well, let's just say it's a bit leafy, scattered, fragmented, and open to interpretation. It's like trying to assemble a jigsaw puzzle with half the pieces missing. Good luck with that. But regardless of when it started, tea cultivation in Japan has a long and rich history. It's intertwined with religion, art, and culture. And it all starts with you. With your hard work, your dedication, and your unwavering commitment to the perfect cup of tea. Even if that perfect cup is still several days away. Remember those terraced slopes you climbed this morning? Feels like a lifetime ago, doesn't it? All that effort, all that sweat, all that philosophical pondering about the meaning of tea, it all leads to this moment. The steaming, the preservation, the transformation. You're not just processing tea leaves, you're preserving a tradition. You're upholding a legacy. You're making really good tea. Hopefully, you carefully inspect the steamed leaves, making sure they're evenly colored and properly softened. You discard any leaves that are damaged or discolored. Quality control is key. After all, you wouldn't want to ruin the whole batch with a few rogue leaves. That would be a terrific disaster. Sorry, I had to. The steaming process is now complete. The leaves are ready for the next stage of their journey. A journey that will take them from your humble farm to, well, wherever tea is sold and consumed in medieval Japan. Probably not Starbucks. Although, a medieval Japanese Starbucks, now that's an idea. You take a deep breath, savoring the aroma of steamed tea leaves. It's a good smell. A comforting smell. A smell that says, you've done a good job. Or maybe that's just the fumes talking. Either way, you feel a sense of accomplishment. You've taken the first step in transforming these humble leaves into something truly special. Something that will bring joy and refreshment to countless people. Or at least, to a few people. Okay, maybe just to one person. But still, now, let's get these leaves ready for their next adventure, the drying process. But that, my friend, is a story for another time. A time when we're both even more relaxed. Yeah, that's the ticket. And now, the moment arrives for rolling. Gentle hand movements toward the microphone. Not the kind where you're suddenly covered in cat hair and mysteriously end up on the living room rug at 3 a.m. No, tea rolling. You gather the steamed tea leaves. They're still warm, pliable, okay, trying to think of something relaxing, like warm, damp, laundry? Sighs. No, that probably just reminds you of folding fitted sheets. Let's go with warm, damp clay. Yes, they feel like warm, damp clay in your hands. You've got your huiro, a special roasting table heated from below, prepared. It's not scorching, just gently toasty. Think of it as the medieval Japanese equivalent of a panini press, but for leaves. A very, very gentle panini press. Now, the rolling. This isn't just some haphazard squishing, mind you. This is an art. This is a meditation. This is, yawns audibly, where the magic really happens. You take a handful of the steamed leaves and place them on the huayro. Then, using your hands, you begin to gently roll and massage them. The goal here is twofold. 1. To break down the cell structure of the leaves, releasing those precious oils and enzymes that give the tea its flavor and aroma. And 2. To shape the leaves into their desired form. For sencha, the most common type of green tea, you're aiming for a needle-like shape. So you're rolling and pressing, coaxing the leaves into slender, elegant little green needles. It's a bit like trying to sculpt miniature spears out of, well, warm, damp clay. The pressure is important. Too little, and you won't release enough flavor. Too much, and you'll bruise the leaves, making them bitter. It's a delicate balance, a dance between pressure and finesse. Years of practice have given you the touch. You can practically feel the leaves responding to your hands, telling you what they need. You work in small batches, carefully monitoring the temperature of the huayro. You don't want the leaves to burn, just to dry slowly and evenly. As they dry, they become more pliable, easier to shape. You notice the aroma intensifying. A fresh, grassy scent fills the air, mingled with hints of seaweed and something else. Something umami. That savory, mouth-watering quality that makes good tea so addictive. You continue to roll and shape, hour after hour. Your hands ache, your back protests, but you persevere. You are, after all, a tea farmer. This is your calling. This is your art. This is another audible yawn, your livelihood. And you know what? There's something deeply satisfying about this process. Something meditative. Something, dare I say, even relaxing. Whispers. Okay, maybe not relaxing, but there's a certain rhythm to it, a certain sense of accomplishment as you watch the leaves transform from shapeless clumps into elegant, fragrant needles. It's repetitive, yes, but it's also mindful. You're fully present in the moment, focused on the task at hand. You're not thinking about your taxes, or your mother-in-law, or whether that cute rice farmer down the road will ever notice you. You're just thinking about tea. And that, my friends, is a beautiful thing. Speaking of beautiful things, did you know that tea wasn't always just about relaxation and mindfulness? During the Sengoku period, that's the 15th and 16th centuries for you history buffs, tea ceremonies became closely associated with samurai culture. Warlords would use tea ceremonies as a way to forge alliances, discuss battle plans, and generally show off their wealth and power. I guess you could say it was the medieval Japanese equivalent of a power lunch. Except, with less yelling and more meticulously arranged flower arrangements. Now, a quirky little tidbit for you. There's a folk belief in some parts of Japan that if you find a perfectly formed tea leaf, one that's completely whole and undamaged, it will bring you good luck. So next time you're sipping on some sencha, keep an eye out. You never know, you might just win the medieval Japanese lottery, which probably involved a lot of rice. And finally, a scholarly debate. Historians still argue about the precise origin of the tea rolling techniques used in Japan. Some believe they were imported directly from China, while others argue that they were developed independently in Japan. There's evidence to support both sides, and the debate continues to this day. It's like trying to figure out who invented the spork, a fascinating, yet ultimately unanswerable, question. Oh, and a joke. A tea joke, you say? Okay. What do you call sad tea? Misera tea. Pauses for reaction. Gets none. I'll just keep rolling then. As you continue rolling, you recall something from earlier in the day, when you were carefully plucking the leaves. You remember noticing a particularly vibrant green leaf, almost glowing in the sunlight. You made sure to pluck it with extra care, knowing that it would contribute to the overall quality of the tea. You hope that someone, somewhere, will appreciate the effort you put into each and every leaf. You think about your ancestors, the generations of tea farmers who came before you. They faced the same challenges, the same hardships. But they persevered, passing down their knowledge and skills from one generation to the next. You feel a sense of connection to them, a sense of pride in your heritage. The sun begins to set, casting long shadows across the tea fields. The air cools, and a gentle breeze rustles through the leaves. You know that you're nearing the end of the day, but you also know that your work is far from over. There are still many more batches of tea to roll, many more leaves to shape. But for now, you allow yourself a moment to pause and appreciate the beauty of the moment. The setting sun, the fragrant tea leaves, the gentle breeze. It's a simple life, but it's a good life. And you wouldn't trade it for anything. Except maybe a really, really comfortable chair. And a back massage. And maybe a lifetime supply of, you guessed it, tea. You resume your rolling. Your movements now more deliberate, more focused. You know that the quality of the tea depends on your attention to detail, on your dedication to your craft. You are a tea farmer. And you are proud of what you do. Long pause, followed by a soft sigh. Now back to the rolling. It's kind of hypnotic, isn't it? The rhythmic motion of your hands, the gentle warmth of the huayro, the fragrant aroma of the tea leaves. Voice trails off, it's almost enough to, another yawn, put you to sleep. Now, the real fun begins. Remember those beautifully rolled leaves? All that hard work. It's time to commit to the next phase, drying. You carefully transfer the leaves from the rolling table, which, let's be honest, is probably just a slightly cleaner section of the dirt floor in your house, onto large bamboo trays. These trays, woven with the skill passed down through generations, are your canvases. And the sun? Well, the sun is your slightly temperamental artist. You spread the leaves thinly across each tray. Not too thick, mind you. We don't want any moldy surprises later. Think of it like spreading cream cheese on a bagel, but with significantly more care and less immediate gratification. You carry the trays outside, the air already thick with the scent of, well, everything. The tea, of course, but also the earth, the nearby rice paddies, maybe a hint of your neighbor's questionable fertilizer practices. It's a symphony of smells, really. An agricultural Gesamtkunstwerk, if you will. You find a suitable spot, ideally, a raised platform or a clean, flat area, to lay out the trays. This is crucial. You don't want the leaves absorbing any unwanted moisture from the ground. Imagine painstakingly crafting the perfect cup of tea, only to have it taste faintly of dirt. The horror. Now comes the agonizing part. Waiting. The sun beats down, and you wait. You watch. You occasionally rotate the leaves, gently stirring them with your fingers to ensure even drying. This isn't a set-it-and-forget-it kind of operation. This requires constant vigilance, a connection with the elements, and a healthy dose of patience. It's during moments like these that you really appreciate the cyclical nature of life. Remember back when you were carefully plucking only the newest, most tender leaves? Now, those same leaves are slowly surrendering their moisture, transforming into something entirely new. It's like the tea leaf equivalent of a caterpillar becoming a butterfly. Except, less flapping and more desiccating. You check the leaves frequently. Are they drying evenly? Are there any signs of scorching? Are birds trying to steal them? Seriously, those little feathered bandits can be a real nuisance. The ideal drying time depends on a few factors: the intensity of the sun, the humidity in the air, and the specific type of tea you're making. Generally, you're looking at several hours, maybe even a full day or two. It's a slow, deliberate process. As the leaves dry, they gradually change color, from a vibrant green to a deeper, more muted hue. They also become more brittle to the touch. You're looking for a specific level of dryness, not too dry, or the leaves will crumble into dust. Not too moist, or they'll be susceptible to mold. It's a delicate balance, a Goldilocks zone of tea drying perfection. While the leaves are drying, you might take the opportunity to perform other tasks. Maybe you'll weed the garden, repair a section of the fence, or catch up on gossip with your neighbors. But you always keep a watchful eye on the tea. It's your baby now. Your sun-baked, chlorophyll-rich baby. The sun's warmth infuses the leaves, drawing out their moisture and concentrating their flavor. It's a natural process, a collaboration between you and the elements. You provide the leaves, the trays, and the watchful care. The sun provides the energy and the transformative power. And let's talk about that transformative power for a second. It's kind of amazing, isn't it? You take these fresh, green leaves, expose them to a little heat and air, and bam, you've got something completely different. Something that, when steeped in hot water, will release a complex array of flavors and aromas. It's like alchemy, but with less bubbling cauldrons and more tea. As the afternoon wears on, you notice the sun beginning to dip towards the horizon. The air cools, and the shadows lengthen. It's time to bring the trays inside. You carefully gather them up, mindful of the delicate leaves. You store the trays in a cool, dry place, away from direct sunlight and moisture. You'll continue the drying process tomorrow, if necessary. This whole process, this dance with the sun, is a crucial step in creating a truly exceptional tea. It's a testament to the power of patience, dedication, and a deep connection with the land. Now, you might be thinking, wow, that sounds like a lot of work. Is there an easier way to dry tea? And the answer, of course, is yes. Modern tea production often involves the use of mechanical dryers, which can significantly speed up the process. But there's something special about sun-dried tea. It's said to have a unique flavor profile, a certain depth and complexity that can't be replicated by machines. And that brings us to our historical tidbit. Did you know that in some regions of Japan, tea farmers still use traditional sun-drying methods to produce high-quality teas? It's a dying art, but it's still practiced by a few dedicated individuals who are committed to preserving the traditions of their ancestors. They believe that the sun's energy imparts a special quality to the tea, a gene qua, that makes it truly exceptional. On the quirkier side of things, there are some, shall we say, alternative theories about sun-drying tea. Some believe that the phases of the moon can affect the drying process, and that drying tea under a full moon will imbue it with special properties. Others claim that chanting specific mantras or prayers while drying the tea will enhance its flavor and potency. I'm not saying any of this is true, of course. But hey, who am I to judge? If it makes you feel good, and it doesn't hurt anyone, then go for it. Just don't blame me if your tea starts levitating. And finally, the scholarly debate. Historians still argue about the precise origins of sun-drying techniques in Japanese tea production. Some believe that it was introduced from China, while others argue that it developed independently in Japan. There's also debate about the relative importance of sun-drying versus other drying methods in different regions and time periods. It's a complex issue, and there's no easy answer. But that's what makes history so fascinating, right? The endless quest for knowledge, the constant reevaluation of evidence, and the occasional heated argument over obscure details. Good times. The sun has now fully set, and the drying leaves are tucked away for the night. You did a good job. Tomorrow, you'll assess their progress and continue the process until they're just right. But for now, rest. You've earned it. Sorting and grading. Assessing the quality asterisk, all right, deep breaths in and out. Now, the real fun begins, or maybe the really tedious part, depending on how you look at it. You've spent all day babying these little leaves, coaxing them through each stage. Now it's time to judge them. Harshly, like a tea leaf Simon Cowell, you spread out a clean, woven mat. Remember, cleanliness is next to, well, it's important. You wouldn't want stray bits of dirt or shutters, bugs ruining your hard work. You gently tip the dried tea leaves onto the mat. They rustle softly, a dry, papery sound that's actually quite satisfying. Kinda like ASMR for medieval tea farmers, which, let's be honest, is a niche market if ever there was one. Now, this is where your experience really comes into play. You're looking for consistency. Color, shape, aroma, it all matters. You start by visually inspecting the leaves. You want a deep, vibrant green, not a dull, brownish hue, which would indicate suboptimal handling. Or maybe just a really bad day. We all have them. You're separating the leaves into different grades. The best leaves, the ones that are perfectly formed, with a rich, even color, will be reserved for the highest-paying customers. Maybe even the local daimyo, the feudal lord. Imagine him sipping your tea. Talk about bragging rights. Quietly, of course. Don't want to seem too proud. Then there are the mid-grade leaves. Still perfectly acceptable, but maybe not quite as aesthetically pleasing. Perhaps a little broken, or a slightly lighter shade of green. These will go to the slightly less discerning customers. Still good people, just, less picky. And finally, there are the rejects. The broken bits, the discolored leaves, the ones that just didn't make the cut. These might be used for everyday tea, or perhaps even sold to poorer villagers. Nothing goes to waste, remember? Waste not, want not, as they say, or will say, eventually. Time travel is still a work in progress, apparently. You're using a series of small bamboo sieves to help with the sorting process. Each sieve has a different mesh size, allowing you to quickly separate the leaves based on their size and shape. It's surprisingly efficient, really. You're gently shaking the sieves, the leaves dancing and swirling within them. It's almost hypnotic. As you sort, you're also assessing the aroma of the tea. You bring a handful of leaves to your nose, inhaling deeply. You're looking for a fresh, grassy scent, with hints of sweetness and maybe a touch of umami. If it smells musty or stale, that's a bad sign. It could indicate that the leaves weren't dried properly or that they've been stored in a damp place. And nobody wants moldy tea. Trust me, you're also feeling the texture of the leaves. They should be dry and slightly brittle, but not so brittle that they crumble to dust at the slightest touch. You want a nice, even texture with no soft spots or damp patches. It's all about the details, really. The devil, as they say, is in the tea leaves. Now, here's a fun fact. While tea was becoming increasingly popular among all social classes in Japan, it was originally introduced by Buddhist monks returning from China. They used it in their monasteries to stay awake during long hours of meditation. So, basically, tea is the original energy drink. Take that, Red Bull. And here's a slightly less fun fact. There's a fringe theory that some medieval Japanese tea farmers actually used, night soil, human waste, as fertilizer for their tea plants. The idea being that it provided a rich source of nutrients. Now, I'm not saying that you did that. I'm just saying that some people might have. Let's just hope they washed the leaves really well. Of course, historians still debate the extent to which night soil was actually used in tea cultivation. Some argue that it was a common practice, while others claim that it was only used in desperate situations. It's one of those things that's hard to prove definitively, given the delicate nature of the subject matter. As you continue sorting, you notice a few leaves that are slightly singed. Remember that incident with the drying rack and the rogue gust of wind? Yeah, those are the casualties. You carefully remove them from the pile, feeling a pang of guilt. It's a reminder that even the most careful farmer can't control everything. Sometimes, things just happen. Like that time you accidentally dyed your hair green, trying to make matcha ice cream. Good times. You also find a few leaves that are unusually large and thick. These are probably from the first flush of the season, the very first harvest of the year. These leaves are highly prized for their delicate flavor and aroma. You set them aside, knowing that they'll fetch a good price. Chaching, you spend hours sorting and grading the tea, your fingers stained green from the chlorophyll. It's a long, tedious process, but it's also strangely satisfying. You're taking pride in your work, knowing that you're producing a high-quality product that people will enjoy. And that, in itself, is a reward. You recall the painstaking plucking from earlier in the day, the gentle steaming, the meticulous rolling. Each step has led to this moment, this final assessment. It's like being a proud parent watching their child graduate, except the child is a pile of dried leaves. You also remember your grandfather's words from, well, earlier today, actually. Seems like a lifetime ago, doesn't it? He taught you that the true value of tea lies not just in its flavor, but in the effort and dedication that goes into producing it. And you're starting to understand what he meant. You glance over at the small pile of rejected leaves. Even they have a purpose. They'll still provide warmth and comfort to someone, somewhere. And that's something to be proud of. As the sun begins to set, casting long shadows across the room, you finally finish sorting and grading the tea. You have 3 distinct piles, the premium grade, the mid-grade, and the other grade. You carefully weigh each pile, recording the results in your ledger. It's important to keep accurate records, especially when dealing with the daimyo. You wouldn't want to accidentally shortchange him, unless you have a really good escape plan. You sweep up the remaining bits and pieces, making sure that nothing goes to waste. You carefully store the graded tea in airtight containers, ready for sale or trade. You feel a sense of accomplishment, knowing that you've done your best. You've honored the tea, and you've honored your ancestors. And that's all that really matters. Now, time for a well-deserved nap. You've earned it. The sun is beginning its slow descent, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple as you finally set off for the market. You shoulder your carefully woven basket, now filled with neatly packaged portions of your finest tea. It's a journey you make perhaps once a week, sometimes less, depending on the season and the size of your harvest. The road, worn smooth by countless feet and cart wheels, winds its way down from the hills and towards the bustling heart of the nearby village. You feel a little spring in your step, despite the lingering ache in your back from the day's labor. This trip is more than just a transaction. It's a chance to connect with your community, to hear the latest news, and maybe even share a laugh or two. Plus, you're almost out of miso. So, that's a pretty big motivator, honestly. As you walk, you pass other farmers and villagers heading in the same direction. You nod and exchange greetings, a comfortable silence punctuated by the occasional brief conversation about the weather, the crops, or the latest gossip. You notice old man Tanaka is struggling with his load of freshly picked daikon radishes. You offer him a hand, and he gratefully accepts, his wrinkled face breaking into a warm smile. You can almost smell the market even before you see it. A cacophony of sounds assaults your ears as you approach. The hawkers' calls, the chatter of merchants and customers, the bleating of goats, and the rhythmic clang of the blacksmith's hammer. It's a vibrant, chaotic scene, a stark contrast to the tranquil solitude of your tea fields. The market square is a sea of stalls overflowing with goods. There are mountains of rice, stacks of colorful fabrics, glistening fish laid out on beds of ice, and pottery of every shape and size. The air is thick with the mingled scents of spices, freshly baked bread, and, yes, even a hint of, is that sewage? Oh well, can't win 'em all. You navigate through the crowd, carefully maneuvering your basket to avoid bumping into anyone. You spot your usual trading spot, a small patch of relatively level ground near the edge of the square, under the shade of a large, ancient oak tree. You spread out a clean cloth, carefully arrange your tea packages, and wait for the customers to arrive. The quality of your tea speaks for itself, and soon enough, people begin to gather around your little stall. You greet each one with a polite bow and a warm smile, explaining the different grades of tea and their unique characteristics. You offer small samples, allowing potential buyers to experience the aroma and flavor firsthand. You remember the care you took steaming and rolling the leaves, the patience you had during the drying process. It all culminated in this moment. Some are seasoned tea drinkers, knowledgeable about the subtle nuances of flavor and aroma. Others are simply curious, drawn in by the enticing fragrance. You patiently answer their questions, sharing your knowledge and passion for tea. It's a chance to educate and inform, to share the fruits of your labor with the world. Or, at least with this small corner of the world. Trading in this era wasn't always about money, you see. Bartering was incredibly common. You might exchange a portion of your tea for rice, vegetables, tools, or even services like mending your clothes or sharpening your sickle. It's a system of mutual exchange, a way to ensure that everyone in the community has access to the necessities of life. And you're definitely going to need someone to mend your clothes soon. You're pretty sure that's your knee poking out of your trousers. You manage to trade a good portion of your tea for a bag of rice, a slab of salted pork, and a bundle of fresh vegetables. You also barter for a small amount of that precious miso you were craving. Score. You even managed to snag a new set of straw sandals. Yours were starting to look a bit worse for wear after all those trips up and down the terrace slopes. They're a bit itchy, but you're sure you'll break them in soon enough. As you trade, you listen to the conversations around you, absorbing the news and gossip of the village. You hear about a dispute over land ownership, a successful harvest in a neighboring village, and rumors of bandits lurking in the nearby mountains. You even hear whispers about the local lord increasing taxes. Great. Just what everyone needed. The market isn't just a place for trade. It's a social hub, a place to connect with your neighbors and strengthen the bonds of community. You see families laughing together, children playing games, and old friends catching up after a long absence. It reminds you why you work so hard, why you pour your heart and soul into cultivating your tea. It's not just for yourself, it's for the good of the community. You spot a group of traveling performers, musicians and dancers, entertaining the crowd with their lively music and graceful movements. You pause for a moment to watch, allowing yourself to be swept away by the rhythm and energy of the performance. It's a welcome distraction from the daily grind, a reminder of the beauty and joy that exists in the world. The mainstream historical fact for this section? Well, markets like these were the lifeblood of medieval Japanese society. They weren't just places to buy and sell goods. They were centers of communication, culture, and community. They played a vital role in the economic and social fabric of the time. Now, for the quirky tidbit, did you know that some merchants in these markets were rumored to use secret codes and hand signals to communicate with each other, especially when dealing with valuable goods or sensitive information? It's like a medieval version of insider trading, only with more bowing and less everything, really. And finally, the scholarly debate. Historians still argue about the extent to which women participated in these markets. Some believe that women were largely confined to domestic roles, while others argue that they played a significant role in trade and commerce, particularly in the sale of agricultural products and handcrafted goods. You definitely see women here today, bartering and trading with the best of them. As the sun dips below the horizon, casting long shadows across the market square, you pack up your remaining tea and prepare for the journey home. Your basket is lighter now, but your heart is full. You've traded your tea for the necessities of life, connected with your community, and reaffirmed your place in the world. You give Old Man Tanaka another nod as you pass him on the way out, this time offering a small package of your finest tea as a thank you for his company. He smiles, his eyes crinkling at the corners, and accepts your gift with a grateful bow. The walk home is peaceful and quiet, the sounds of the market fading into the distance. You feel a sense of satisfaction, knowing that you've worked hard and contributed to the well-being of your community. And now, you're really looking forward to that miso soup. The sun, lower now, paints the terraced hills in hues of orange and purple. You are walking home, the day's labor etched into the lines of your face, a quiet satisfaction blooming in your chest. The market, with its boisterous energy, feels distant now, a memory fading with each step you take away from it. The path, familiar as the lines on your own hands, winds through the rice paddies, now shimmering sheets of water reflecting the fading light. You notice the fireflies beginning to flicker, tiny beacons in the gathering dusk. It's a scene straight out of a woodblock print, isn't it? Almost too perfect to be real. The air is cooler now, carrying the scent of damp earth and blooming rice. You breathe deeply, savoring the freshness. It washes over you, a balm to soothe muscles weary from the day's work. You realize your body aches, but it's a good ache, the kind that comes from honest labor, from creating something tangible with your own two hands. You suspect it's the same ache your ancestors felt, tending these same fields. You pass the small Shinto shrine nestled at the edge of the village. You pause, offering a silent prayer of thanks for the day's bounty and for the continued health of your family. The kami, the spirits, are said to dwell in all things, from the mountains to the smallest blade of grass. Some people even say they dwell in exceptionally well-fermented tea, but that might just be the sake talking. Remember that argument you had with Old Man Tanaka about the optimal drying time? Well, turns out you were right. You saw his face at the market when he realized your tea fetched a slightly higher price. Not that you're gloating, of course. Much. As you continue your walk, you reflect on the day's accomplishments. You plucked the leaves with care, steamed them with precision, rolled them with artistry, and dried them with patience. You sorted them meticulously and traded them fairly. You have contributed to the cycle of life, from the earth to the cup. It's a small thing, perhaps, but it is your thing. You think about the people who will eventually drink your tea. Merchants in distant cities, samurai preparing for battle, monks seeking enlightenment. Each cup will carry a piece of you, a testament to your hard work and dedication. It's a strange thought, isn't it? That something you created with your own hands will travel so far and touch so many lives. You pass Mrs. Sato's house. She's outside, tending her small garden, her silhouette outlined against the warm glow of her lantern. She nods to you, a silent greeting. You nod back. A simple gesture, but it speaks volumes. It's a connection, a recognition of shared experience, of the bonds that tie the community together. You wonder if she ever gets tired of growing those prize-winning daikon radishes. Probably not. You think back to the market. That one merchant, the one with the slightly shifty eyes, offered you a ridiculously low price for your tea. You almost lost your temper, but you managed to hold it in. You remembered your grandfather's words. Patience, young one. A good price will always find its way to those who deserve it. And he was right. Someone else came along and offered you a fair price. Karma, maybe? Or just good old-fashioned supply and demand. Speaking of that market, let's not forget the dengaku stand. The miso-glazed tofu skewers were calling your name, weren't they? But you resisted the temptation, remembering your family's needs. Discipline, self-control, all that good stuff. You deserve a gold star. Or at least an extra helping of rice tonight. Historians still argue about the exact economic role of tea farmers in medieval Japan. Were they relatively independent landowners, or were they essentially serfs tied to the land? The truth, as always, is probably somewhere in between. It likely depended on the region, the specific clan that controlled the territory, and the individual farmer's circumstances. But you can be sure that whatever their economic status, they worked hard. You quicken your pace as you see the lights of your own home in the distance. The smell of cooking rice drifts on the air, a welcome invitation. You can hear the laughter of your children, their voices light and carefree. It's a sound that fills your heart with joy. You remember reading somewhere that tea consumption in Japan really took off during the Kamakura period, 1185 to 1333, thanks to the influence of Zen Buddhism. Monks used tea to stay awake during long meditation sessions, and they promoted its cultivation and consumption throughout the country. So, in a way, you can thank those sleepy monks for your livelihood. You think about your tools. The bamboo basket, the small knife, the wooden trays. Simple tools, but they are extensions of your own body, instruments of your craft. You treat them with respect, knowing that they are essential to your survival. You should probably sharpen that knife again, though. You keep meaning to, but somehow you always seem to forget. It's like that one chore that always lingers on the to-do list, isn't it? As you approach your home, you notice the moon rising over the mountains, casting a silvery glow on the landscape. It's a beautiful sight, a reminder of the enduring power of nature. You feel a sense of peace wash over you. It's a good life, a simple life, but it is a good life. You are connected to the land, to your community, and to your family. What more could you ask for? There's a debate, a very niche debate, about whether tea ceremonies were originally designed to subtly assert social status. The theory goes that the specific utensils used, the way the tea was prepared, and even the seating arrangements were all carefully orchestrated to signal one's position in the social hierarchy. Some scholars dismiss this as overly cynical, arguing that the ceremonies were primarily about spiritual enlightenment and aesthetic appreciation. Others, well, they probably spend too much time analyzing teacups. Oh, and remember how you almost dropped that whole basket of tea leaves earlier today? Yeah, you're still a little embarrassed about that. Good thing no one saw you. Or did they? You swear you saw old man Tanaka smirking in the distance. Maybe he is psychic. You reach your doorstep. Your wife greets you with a warm smile and a steaming bowl of rice. Your children rush to your side, eager to hear about your day. You are home, and all is well. The last embers of the charcoal in the hearth are glowing softly, casting dancing shadows on the walls of your small home. You meticulously arranged your futon earlier, smoothing out the simple cotton cover. It's not exactly a Tempur-Pedic, but after a day of hauling tea baskets up and down those hills, it feels like a cloud. You take a moment to appreciate the quiet. No TikTok notifications, no doom scrolling, just the gentle crackle of dying embers and the distant chirp of crickets. Imagine that. You slip beneath the covers, the coarse fabric surprisingly comforting against your tired skin. The scent of the day clings to you, the earthy aroma of the tea fields, the faint smokiness from the steaming process, and the subtle, almost metallic tang of honest sweat. It's a perfume you wouldn't find at any fancy department store, but it's yours. And it smells like accomplishment. You close your eyes, and the day replays itself in your mind's eye. You see the sunrise again, that glorious explosion of color over the mountains. You feel the cool morning air on your face, the weight of the tea basket pressing into your shoulders, the delicate texture of the tea leaves between your fingers. You even relive that near disaster when you almost tripped on that rogue root on the hillside. Ugh, you really need to remember to watch out for that thing. You focus on the good parts, though. The satisfaction of a full basket, the quiet camaraderie with the other farmers at the market, the clinking sound of coins as you traded your tea for rice and other necessities. And, of course, the taste of that first sip of sake when you got home. Not too much, mind you. Gotta be ready for tomorrow. But just enough to take the edge off. Your body aches pleasantly. You feel it in your back, your legs, your hands. It's the kind of ache that tells you you've earned your rest. It's a far cry from the existential dread you get after a day of sitting in front of a computer screen, isn't it? Remember that one time you pulled an all-nighter trying to meet a deadline? Yeah, this is way better. As you drift closer to sleep, your thoughts turn to the future. You imagine the tea plants, their leaves unfurling with the promise of new growth. You see yourself walking through the fields again, carefully selecting the choicest leaves. You envision the tea being brewed and enjoyed, bringing warmth and comfort to people you'll probably never even meet. It's a strangely profound thought, isn't it? That your hard work, your dedication, will contribute to the well-being of others. You think about the next harvest, Will it be as bountiful as this one? Will the weather cooperate? Will you get that new hoe you've been eyeing at the market? You kind of hope old man Tanaka finally lowers his price. He's such a grump. And speaking of Tanaka, you briefly wonder if he's actually a Tengu in disguise. You know, one of those long-nosed mountain goblins from folklore. He certainly has the nose for it. Plus, nobody ever sees him leave his house. Okay, maybe you're just overtired. Mainstream historical fact. During the medieval period in Japan, tea wasn't just a beverage. It was often used in religious ceremonies and by the upper classes as a status symbol. Think of it as the medieval Japanese equivalent of a fancy bottle of wine or a limited edition sneaker drop. Quirky/fringe tidbit. There's a persistent legend, mostly told after a bit too much sake, that some tea farmers could allegedly communicate directly with the tea plants, coaxing them to produce better leaves through sheer willpower. It's probably just a tall tale, but hey, who knows? Maybe they were just really good at talking to plants. Or really good at drinking sake. Scholarly debate. Historians still debate the extent to which the samurai class influenced tea production and consumption among the commoners. Did the samurai's elaborate tea ceremonies trickle down to the lower classes? Or was tea culture already thriving independently among the farmers? It's a real chicken or the egg situation, but with more matcha. You adjust your position slightly, pulling the blanket a little higher. The fire has died down to a soft glow, and the room is filled with a comforting darkness. You are safe. You are warm. You are content. The rhythmic chirping of the crickets becomes a lullaby, and your eyelids grow heavy. Your breathing slows, and your muscles relax. The worries and stresses of the day melt away, replaced by a sense of peace and tranquility. You think of the market again. That one merchant was being really annoying, trying to haggle you down to practically nothing for your best leaves. Honestly, some people just have no respect. You almost told him where he could stick his offer, but you managed to bite your tongue. Barely. Maybe you should have had 2 sips of sake. Your thoughts become hazy, fragmented, dreamlike. You see yourself walking through the tea fields, but the plants are taller than you, their leaves shimmering like emeralds. You reach out to pluck a leaf, and it transforms into a gold coin. You smile, knowing that your hard work will be rewarded. You are falling asleep now, drifting into a world of dreams. You dream of tea, of course. Mountains of tea leaves, rivers of green tea, and a giant teapot that spouts steaming hot sencha. It's a weird dream, but it's your dream. Embrace it. You think of your family, your ancestors, all the generations of tea farmers who came before you. You are part of a long and proud tradition, a lineage that stretches back centuries. You are carrying on their legacy, preserving their knowledge, and honoring their memory. And as you finally succumb to the embrace of sleep, you anticipate the cycle anew. The rising sun, the gentle call of the tea, the familiar rhythm of the day. You know it will be hard work, but you also know it will be rewarding. You are a tea farmer, and this is your life. And you wouldn't have it any other way. Good night. Sleep well, and dream of tea. And so, our tea farmer turns homeward, the setting sun painting the rice paddies in hues of lavender and gold. The path, though familiar, seems softened now, the dust no longer harsh but a gentle cushion beneath weary feet. Each step is a quiet thank you, a meditation on the day's labor and the earth's patient bounty. Imagine now, the cool evening air, carrying the scent of wood smoke from nearby homes and the faint, lingering aroma of freshly processed tea. This scent clings to our farmer, a subtle reminder of the day's work, a comforting blanket as the stars begin to prick the darkening sky. The house awaits, a warm lantern glow beckoning from afar. Soon, a simple meal will be shared, stories told, and laughter exchanged with loved ones. The day's toil will melt away, replaced by the gentle embrace of family and the quiet satisfaction of a life lived in harmony with nature. As the hours soften and the fire embers fade, our tea farmer prepares for sleep. Thoughts of the morrow gently drift in, the rising sun, the dew-kissed leaves, the rhythmic plucking, the comforting weight of the basket, all swirling together like a soft, sweet dream. And now, let those images gently dissolve, the tea fields fading into the quiet darkness, the farmer's footsteps growing ever fainter. Let the warmth of the evening settle around you, a comforting embrace as you drift off to a peaceful slumber, carrying with you the tranquility of a day